Steps in, starts it. Crosby scores! At 12 seconds of the second period.
Hello and welcome to Mega Hockey episode 4. What is going on? I'm joined by the Torre. Today we are going to talk about the Stanley Cup Finals, which is actually happening in a couple of minutes, 7 minutes after we started recording here. But we're going to be going over the finals, and we're going to be saying our predictions, and we're going to be recapping the third round. So let's get into it. Dot.
What an amazing first 3 rounds of the playoffs so far. Unbelievable. What a great finals we have in store for us tonight. All right, let's get into it. What are your initial impressions, Mega, of the conference finals?
Yeah, so this was interesting. Got Dallas versus Edmonton. That was last year as well. We got Florida versus Carolina. So, not a lot of new faces. Carolina's been there before, obviously, and even though it wasn't the Rangers, it was Carolina. So, I feel like this was these were pretty straightforward predictions. They weren't really hard to pick, except for the West, but we kind of all knew Florida was probably going to take that, and that Dallas, and that Edmonton probably had the upper hand if they played to the level that they were playing last playoffs. So yeah.
What I said last week was the old narratives really stuck, right? And so the idea that Dallas makes it to the conference finals and they can't get over the hump, same thing with Carolina, it completely played out true to form. This whole playoffs, all you had to do was bet and pick the chalk. Bet and pick what would normally happen, including this Stanley Cup final rematch, and it did happen. One thing that really strikes me is Carolina and Dallas got killed. I mean, they got killed. Dallas should have gotten swept, really, when you think about it. Edmonton had that lead 3-1 in the third period, game 1. They ended up blowing it because Dallas scored 5 in the third, but then Edmonton didn't look back. That could have been a sweep. Carolina really was never in that series. And it seems to me like Dallas and Carolina have a reckoning because they're very good, but they don't seem to be good enough to get over the hump. And I think that Dallas is better than Carolina, but Carolina plays in a weaker conference, so it kind of evens out in that way. And they have a reckoning. They have to figure it out. Carolina, I think, knew they had this. That's why they traded for Rantanen in the first place. Didn't work out. They have Stankoven, phenomenal player. They know what they need. They need that offensive punch to get them over the top. I don't know if they're going to get there. Dallas is in a lot of trouble. I mean, the talk of trading Robertson, are you kidding me right now? This is insane to me. I get the logic, like they want to free up some cap to go after some guys and build up more offensive firepower right now. But you just traded Stankoven. You trade Robertson, then all you have is Wyatt Johnson, who's a younger player, and you're going to close your window really fast. I don't get it. I don't get it at all, but I guess they're desperate. You make it to the conference finals that many times, you can't get over the hump. It's frustrating. And the West has so many good teams. So it's really interesting. And also, as an aside, if Jason Robertson is on the market, Matthew Darche, please get on this right away. Right away. Like, could you please get on this, man? So it's going to be very interesting. I don't even know what Dallas needs. I think Dallas is good enough to win the cup. I picked them last year to win the cup. But there's a lot of trouble brewing in those two places. So very, very interesting. What do you think about the matchup here? We got Florida, Edmonton, round 2.
We're actually going to go back to the...
Apologies. Go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah. So with Jason Robertson, I mean, I can actually get the talk of trading him, because I feel like Dallas, Carolina, it's the same thing. Robertson had the 46-goal season, 22-23. That was his breakout year. If he could stay consistent and keep getting over 100 points, he could have been with the McDavids, the McKinnons, the Matthews as of the league, but he slowed down, next year 41 goals, but way less assists, 31 assists for 79 points, and then next year, yeah, 29 goals. This is for 29 goals, 51 assists, 80 points.
How many?
And he played 82 games just like the year prior. So it's a 29-point decrease from the previous year. And then this year he plays 82 games again and gets the exact same amount of points. So he's probably just going to be a point of gameplay, which obviously it's very good, but it's not up with the McKinnons, McDavid and stuff. So Dallas falls into the exact same boat as Carolina, just with a bit more depth. Carolina, they need that 95 overall really good player, elite, one of the best players in the league, and so does Dallas, unless Jason Robertson can step it up. I mean, he's only 25, but who knows? So they fall into the same boat, and then they're playing Florida, who they have Tkachuk, they have Barkov, and then Dallas plays Edmonton. Obviously, they have Draisaitl and McDavid, who are both among the best players in the league and are capable of leading a team.
We're talking about trading a 40-goal guy, basically. Now, if you're going to make the argument that he's not a 40-goal guy anymore, that would justify trading him, but I don't know how you really go there. How many guys do you think in the NHL last year scored, and I'll give it to 39, not even 40. How many guys do you think scored 39 or more goals this year in the NHL regular seasons? I'm putting Mega on the spot here. He does not know I asked him that, so a lot of pressure. What do you think?
Yeah. I think McDavid did not have, McDavid had 26 goals, I believe. McKinnon.
McKinnon had 32.
Dang it.
Yeah, that was tough. Rantanen had 32.
I don't think there are many.
There are not many.
Robertson is 35. I'm just looking at that. Matthews is injured, so he didn't have it. And
40's hard. I mean, if
there aren't many players who I could think that even playing did. Ovechkin.
Ovechkin, he's third in the league. How many guys? What's the number?
I'm gonna say 4.
We had 7 score 40. Gensel had 41, and then we had 9.
Gensel had 41.
Henry's 10 if you include the 39. So Scheifele, Reinhart, DeBrincat had a great year. 39. That's it.
Chicago should have never traded DeBrincat, because if they had DeBrincat and Kane, they would have. DeBrincat could have been with Bedard and
that was so dumb. Tampa had 2 of those 40-goal scorers. That's why I picked them to make the Cup Finals. You only had
Kucherov was the other one.
Kucherov and Gensel. Gensel had a great year, 80 points, 80 games. You had 7 guys score 40, 10 score 39 or more. So if you're going to trade a guy who I consider a 40-goal scorer, Robertson had 35 last year. I don't know, man. I just feel like you can't replace a guy like that. There's 7 guys in the whole league who scored 41, 10 who scored 39 or more. I mean, Robertson himself was tied for 18th in the league. So what are you doing? I mean, what are you going to get for him? It doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like a desperation move. By the way, and Coach Thompson was tied for 3rd in the league with 4 goals. I'm just putting that out there.
Wow,
I'm not rated.
He had an underrated season this year too, because I know he had a 40-goal last year, but yeah,
underrated.
But going up to Jason Robertson, he had 6 points in 11. He has 6 points in 11 games this playoffs. That's not a lie. I mean, McDavid has he's way more. A lot of players have way more. Even Evan Bouchard has way more. He's a defenseman, by the way. He has 17 points. So, and he did play 11 games. So Robertson is not really that playoff performer you'd like to see it as much as a McKinnon, McDavid. He's not up there. He's like Matthews, but Matthews has obviously better goal scoring, so he can be up there during the regular season. But with Dallas, they already traded Stankoven. They have to they have a young core that they can use, but I think they have to get that number one guy, and they have to get some more depth pieces to do this. And then Carolina is, like you said, probably a little bit worse than Dallas. But they have Aho and Svetch, but they still need that number one guy. And who knows, Brendan Moore might be going this offseason. They might hire John Cooper, but who knows?
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, Dallas scored 8 goals the whole series, and Robertson had a couple. I think Robertson's low numbers are also a result of Edmonton is playing phenomenal defense, and the other Dallas players really didn't step up.
Yeah, Edmonton.
I'm sorry, my bad. 12. I've said 12 goals they scored. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Edmonton is just a new breed in the playoffs, and so is Florida. But yeah. So this is where I want to get into the Edmonton versus Dallas, and looking at the statistics, we can see how Edmonton outplayed Dallas. They outplayed them. So I'll have start of every single game, and it says so. You got shots on goal, right? So on game 1, Edmonton got Dallas in shots on goal, face-offs, power play was even, but they tied penalty minutes, and the lesser important statistics, Edmonton also beat them in, and it's just a result of great coaching and a lot of players that just step up during the playoffs. But then you see Dallas did beat them in one of the games in the more important statistics, but Edmonton really owns them when you look at the vast majority of games in that series. Like Dallas couldn't get anything on them, and it just is a result of Edmonton's insane defense. Like, I mean, Jake Wallman, everyone else they picked up at the deadline, great pickups. They aced that deadline. So I feel like if they keep playing like this, they can easily shut down Florida, because Florida they do have the better goaltender in Bobrovsky, but Skinner's played amazing. And if McDavid really turns on the Jets, and with the injuries that Florida has, even though Hyman being the one injury for Edmonton, I think they can still beat Florida, but it might be a bit closer now that Hyman is injured.
So here's the question. There's a stat called goals saved above expected. Which goalie out of the 4 in the conference finals had the highest goal saved above expected?
Skinner.
Not Bobrovsky, not Ottinger. That's kind of insane to me, especially because Dallas is clearly a more potent than Carolina is. This whole series of pods, I've been just railing on Edmonton. They don't play defense. I don't like them, blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to apologize in part to the Edmonton fans. I've really come around on Edmonton because they are playing such great defense. Penalty kill was 85% in the conference finals. They are forechecking like beasts. They are covering their responsibilities. They're getting back. It's really, really, really impressive. I mean, when you're giving up 11 goals in 5 games, and they scored 6 in one game, that's insane.
Yeah, it is.
So I got to give credit to Skinner, credit to Edmonton. I think Edmonton has learned their lesson, like what they need to do to win. It's, the regular season is completely different than the playoffs, and the first 3 rounds of the playoffs are different than the finals. They learned what they have to do, and what they've done. Edmonton, to me, is getting better each round, right? They struggled against the Kings in the beginning, dropped the first 2 games, then picked it up. And they've just been building momentum. This was such an impressive series. They're really rolling into this finals on a high. And,
yeah.
And the depth they have is just really, really great. They needed that. They're getting it. And so they're very formidable right now.
Yeah. And then going back to what you said about the goals saved above expected, I do believe in that stat. That's a very good stat. I just find it surprising because looking at their stats, like actually, in the playoffs and that series. Skinner does have 253, which is very good, but only a 9-4 save percentage. So I thought that would be lower. So I was kind of surprised, but.
I mean, really, he had one bad period where when you break it down, he had one bad period where they gave up 5 goals. They gave up almost half the goals they gave up in the entire series in one period. I mean, that happens, but if you're going to give up a lot of goals like that, you want to just restrict it to one period, one game, just, strike that one out and move on. Yeah, they've been really, really impressive. Their defensive play has been really impressive. So, that's what we're looking at. What do you think about just touching on the Florida-Carolina series? This one was less eventful.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so I feel like Florida, it's kind of just the same thing that we've seen. That's why we haven't touched on it as much in this pod, but Bobrovsky is amazing, and that might be a key to, if Florida was to win the Edmonton series, there are a lot of reasons why they definitely could. He'd probably be at the top of that list. So would Tkachuk and Barkov, all those guys. But yeah, I feel like Maurice is a really good coach, and Florida. Looking at their statistics, I mean, their power play isn't necessarily the best at 23.2%, but their penalty kill definitely makes up for it, 87.9%, and everything else isn't as important. But they do have. But if they can just kill off Edmonton's power plays, even though Edmonton. It's like Florida has one of the best penalty kills versus Edmonton one of the best power plays. So if they can kill those off, like they did, like they have been doing, and just be able to capitalize on Edmonton's if they don't have as good of a defense, which I don't think they'll be able to. Spoiler alert! But if they can, then that would be really good, and that's probably a key to why they actually beat Carolina in that series.
Yeah, I think this is spot on. I think the key to the finals is the Edmonton power play against the Florida penalty kill. I think that's the whole thing. I think that if Edmonton is 25% or more in the power play, the series is over. Absolutely over. Edmonton's going to crush them. The thing with Florida, watching those games, it didn't show up in the stats so much, but Florida kind of let them hang around a little bit, and then they knew they could keep it close. They knew Carolina wouldn't let the game get away by scoring too many goals. And then they came back and won. Game 5, they were down 2-0 in the first period. And they just came back and scored those 3 quick goals. Florida knew they could keep a lid on Carolina's offense because Carolina doesn't have a great offense. And Florida's got a tremendous defense. I mean, they have the top 2 guys in the voting for the Selke, which is insane. I don't think they're going to be able to do that against Edmonton. I think if Edmonton jumps out like Carolina jumped out, Florida's not going to be able to come back from that. So I think Florida's going to have to focus on getting on top of the games, scoring the first goal, which they didn't always do, and really trying to keep a lid on Edmonton, because if they let Edmonton get rolling, it's over. Edmonton is playing extremely well right now. Like, they are really firing on all cylinders, and I don't really see a weakness in their game. So I think Florida had a little bit of an easier time with Carolina than Edmonton did with Dallas. And I think that Florida's really got to take it to another level to repeat here.
Yeah, so we've kind of been switching gears here. Eventually, all right, so let's look at Florida versus Edmonton here. So we got the Stanley Cup Final rematch, the first time since 2008, and before that, 1980. But let's just look at this historically, right? Because as you've said, the common ideas have been correct, and the common idea for this one is that one team wins the first one, but the other two second one. 2008, and Detroit won the first one, Pittsburgh won the second one, Islanders won the first one, Edmonton won the second one. So going by what has been the common theme in these playoffs, Edmonton should win, and we're gonna get into this now. So looking at Edmonton's numbers, 30% power play, very good. Even seven more percentage than Florida, but their penalty kill takes a deep dive when it's 66%. But yeah, so face-offs, that's basically the same as Florida, 48.4%, and everything else is basically the same. But Edmonton, they do have multiple. They don't have multiple injuries, but they do have a key player injured, which might be impactful in the series. And tell you that is so. And on the injuries tab, they have Hyman injured with an upper body injury after Game 4. But
Which we think it's a wrist, and that's what we had heard, that it's a wrist, and he's going to be out for the whole playoffs. So they have no Zach Hyman.
Yeah, very important player. Could be impactful, but they still have their depth guys. They still have Bouchard, they still have Nugget, and they still have McDavid and Draisaitl. So it doesn't change a whole lot, I feel like, as a lot of people think it does. I feel like they're kind of overreacting I think they can still play their system without him. And but going over to Florida, they have a very good penalty kill. As what I said before, the series is going to be penalty kill versus power play. If Florida can kill Edmonton's power plays, which is where Edmonton can get those crucial goals, then Florida has a chance of winning. But if Edmonton kills Florida's power plays, it could go the way for Edmonton. I think Florida needs to kill Edmonton's power plays with their very good penalty kill and capitalize on their power play, which is decent, with Edmonton's relatively bad penalty kills. So
Edmonton's been okay on the penalty kill. I mean, they played well against Dallas. I definitely think Edmonton PP versus Florida PK is going to be a big matchup. I think on the other side, I don't see it so much as Panthers power play versus Edmonton penalty kill. I see it more as, can the Panthers get in the blue paint? I think the way they're going to score goals is going to be dirty, greasy goals, especially because they are banged up. And Tkachuk is banged up. This team is banged up. And can they establish position down low in front of Skinner, cause confusion, do what they do best, and get goals? Those are the two things I would look for. When Edmonton is on offense, it's mainly about special teams and odd man rushes and stuff like that. You saw the McDavid breakaway goal. Florida, I think it's going to be dirty. They're going to have to play dirty, get in the paint, tip-ins, deflections, stuff like that. It's going to be really interesting. I think, like I said last round, which didn't really pan out too much, the matchups are going to be really important. So who's home? Got to win the games at home, right? Florida can match up with anybody, and when Florida's home, their ability to put their defensive guys on the top units for Edmonton is going to be huge. So winning road games is going to be really important for both teams. Getting the lead is going to be really important for Florida. I think that they have to get the lead first, because Edmonton can score in bunches. And I don't think Florida is going to score as quickly as they did against Edmonton, the way they did against Carolina. So I think Edmonton, special teams, power play, and everything that goes into it. So, drawing penalties, playing fast, getting on the rush, getting numbers, making Florida take penalties. And Florida's got to just play their game. Dirty, gritty, greasy, that type of thing. So whoever does that best, I think, is going to win.
Yeah. So touching on another key factor, which is the goaltending, because Stuart Skinner, right? He is still a question mark, because Edmonton, they do play the defensive game very well these playoffs and last playoffs, but can Stuart Skinner hold up? Can he save those not very greasy goals, but the bad shots that Florida takes that could go in and change the game? If he can do that, then Florida can probably be stuck to only 2 or 3 goals, and those are the greasy ones. And Edmonton can use their McDavid and Draisaitl, and they can product they can produce goals out of a way that Florida can't, and they can take the series. And it also holds up on the other end with Bobrovsky. I mean, he's been really good in these playoffs. He's consistent. He's one of, if not the best goalies currently in the playoffs. And he also has to hold up his end of the bargain against McDavid and Draisaitl on some shots that could go in. So I feel like it's more important with Skinner, but they both need to do their job, and they're definitely keys to the series also.
Yeah, poor Skinner. This man has been playing so well, but he's always going to be second guessed until he wins the cup. I think he's playing well enough to win. I mean, granted, he plays for Edmonton, so they have an amazing offense. Cover him a little bit. Bobrovsky's really interesting. It's really interesting to think about his career arc where he was this Vezina winning goalie, top goalie in the league. Then he signs the big deal with Florida at $10 million plus at a time when goalies weren't getting that. He's a bust. It's not worth it. That contract did not look good for a number of years. They were talking about bringing in, Knight or Lyon or somebody to replace him, that type of thing. And then he's really resurrected his career and shown how amazing he is. Good for him. Very, very interesting how that's planned out. Now everyone's talking about, it's like a surefire Hall of Famer. He probably is, but wasn't looking like that before this great run with Florida. I think Edmonton's got enough goaltending. I think this is going to be an amazing, epic finals. I think this is going to be so great. So having said that, what are you thinking? What's your prediction? How many games? What do you got?
Sorry, but there's one thing I wanted to.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so, injuries to Florida, we haven't talked about that yet. So, just looking at the injury list, Florida does not have one of their top players like Hyman, out, but they do have, some depth players out because they have a lot of fourth liners out. They have AJ Greer, Jesper Boquist will be taking his place in the lineup. They also have Thomas Nosek, and Yona Gajovic on the right wing. So their entire fourth line is refined here because of their injuries. It doesn't hurt as much as Hyman, but you're losing some depth players. You're losing some depth players, and they can cost you goals if your fourth line doesn't hold up their end of the bargain on one of their shifts, and McDavid ends up scoring. So it's not as important, I don't think, but Florida's. But those are Florida's injuries, and their lineup will be Evan Rodriguez, Alexander Barkov, and Reinhardt. Then a second line for Hagee, Bennett, Kachuk. Third line, Lusterinen, Lundell, and Marchand. And fourth line, Boquist, Nosek, and Yona. So, and then defensive pairings, Forsling, Ekblad, Mikkola, Jones, and Schmid, and Dmitry Kulikov. And then Tenny as Bobrovsky. So they have a more refined lineup than Edmonton, but it is worth something, even if it's not worth a lot. So my pick for these finals I think this is also based on how my picks have turned out in the playoffs in general, but I'm picking Edmonton in 5, and
5. Oh man!
So I hear he says,
yeah, I want to hear that.
Because every single time in the playoffs, I feel like I've done a lot more games, and I shouldn't have. And it's not been picking the right team. It's just been those games. So I'm gonna go bold here. I'm just gonna say Edmonton 5, and I'm going to say that because it's also been the common theme for a lot of other series, like I picked Carolina in 7. I picked Florida in 7. It was Florida in 5. I picked Edmonton in 7. It was Edmonton in 5. So I'm not picking Florida. I'm not picking Edmonton in 7 again. I'm taking Edmonton in 5. So yeah, I'm following the common theme, which is what I'm supposed to do apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Florida fans are flipping out right now. No respect given to the champs. Woo! That's a bold pick, though. I can respect the bold pick there. So listeners of the pod might be surprised to find out that I'm actually going to pick Edmonton. For every round I've been saying I'm not going to pick Edmonton because I don't like them, and it was really just an emotional pick. I thought Edmonton would beat Dallas, but I just didn't want to pick Edmonton. I'm going to change that, and now the Edmonton fans are upset because now I'm going to jinx Edmonton. But I'm convinced. I've become a believer. I think Edmonton has what it takes. I'm going to say Edmonton in 7 because this is going 7. I mean, this is going to be a legendary series. It's going to be a war, a freaking war. This is going to be. But I think, the whole, and also what you said earlier, if you just picked history, right? Like whatever happened in history would happen again. Florida, Edmonton making it back, Carolina, Dallas making it to the finals, Hellebuck's not a playoff goalie, like all these things that were the narratives that are coming true. There's one more narrative, which is that when there's a Stanley Cup rematch, the team that lost the last year wins the next year. And so I'm going to just ride the narrative. I think Edmonton wins.
Let's go, guys.
The cup goes back to Canada. I think Edmonton wins in 7.
Cup goes back to Canada. Let's go, guys. But it's like you're saying you're a believer. It's like Paul was like, are you a believer? Matthews activated. Martyr activated.
I respect what Florida has done. I think making it to the finals 3 years in a row with the salary cap era with 32 teams, it's really hard. Kind of like what Tampa did previously. I respect the hell out of that team. They play hockey the right way. That's exactly the way you should play hockey. The pickups they got at the deadline, Marchand, Jones, amazing. Like arguably the best pickups. Like those are playoff guys. That was phenomenal. Marchand is like the epitome of a playoff guy. That was perfect. I respect them. There's no shade against Florida. I just think that Edmonton is rolling. I said earlier in the last pod, it's a momentum playoffs. You got to go with the momentum. And Edmonton has all the momentum right now. So that's where I stand.
All right, newsflash. Edmonton 1-0. 18:54 left in the first period. Leon Draisaitl unassisted. They don't have the video clip up yet.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to go watch this game.
Yeah, so we're going to go watch this game. Next pod is going to be an Islanders only one. We're probably going to film it on a weekend. Maybe the weekend after next weekend. I mean,
break down the Isles, break down the number one. Yeah, the draft, what they should do in the draft.
That will
what
be
they need.
A long one.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about Isles hockey and the number one pick in the draft next time.
Yeah, and then after that, probably just a general draft preview. So yeah, see you guys then. Peace out.
All right.